Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Erin Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
All right, welcome to another edition of New Voices. We are so glad to have you. We have a wonderful guest who will be joining us via satellite here for our discussion. She's a wonderful woman. First of all, my name is Erin Wiggum. I am the managing director of New You, and I'm also serving as your host of New Voices. We have a wonderful guest here who has an amazing story that I just want to share with you all today. And so she comes to us by way of Chicago, Illinois, and she is now here in Tulsa with us doing some amazing work at the University of Tulsa. She just was recently promoted to the director of diversity and education. She could fix the title in a minute, but that's all. And so, but she's come to be a wonderful friend. We met as she went through the New You program, and she shared some things that were very vulnerable, but very powerful. And she has a wonderful testimony and story to share with us today. And so, I just want to take a moment to introduce to some and welcome to others the wonderful Miss Dionne Lambert. Welcome, Dionne.
Hi.
How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. I was sharing with you before we started. I'm a little sleep deprived. I'm taking a class, and everything that I started with New You is continuing as far as continuing to develop and grow. And so this class, now they told me it was a boot camp, and people call all kinds of stuff boot camp, and it's whatever. But no, this is a for real boot camp. Like there's not one time in one of my classes where I'm just like, where I'm not like, what did I do? Why did I sign up for this? So I'm tired because I was on campus until about 4:30 this morning, and trying to catch up on schoolwork. It's been a long time since I've been a student. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
but I'm good though. I'm grateful. I'm excited.
Good. So what we always do is we start from the beginning, and I just kind of ask, what is the Dionne Lambert story? Like, what you can start from wherever you would like. Tell us your story.
Oh my goodness, that is a loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's in interviews, it's my least favorite question.
Okay.
Tell us about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because I'm like, ooh, which part you want? So born and raised in Chicago, south side of Chicago. So I am the firstborn of 6 to my mom, but 7 altogether, including my sister. That was the Dionne's got away to college, baby. With my dad. And so being a firstborn to a single parent, my mom was a single parent, that was a little challenging because I was assistant mama. And mom was going to school and working and doing her very best to try to make sure that we had everything that we needed. And so that put a lot of responsibility on me. And for anyone who has any experience with adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, and trauma and different things like that, we understand how impactful it can be for children to basically have to grow up before their time. And so I carried a lot of that with me, but it has also added to some of the perspective that I have always been a person like beyond my years
Yeah.
as a kid, and now I'm reverting backwards because I didn't have a childhood. So so there's that. But I'll consider myself a border walker. So being the firstborn to a single mom on the south side of Chicago, which is basically all black neighborhood. When I was growing up, it might have been
Right.
gentrified by now. And all of those responsibilities and basically being a system mama, all that. To when I was 15, moving to go and live with my dad and my stepmom, who I call my bonus mom because she was a light, is a light that I needed, and was the bridge between myself and my dad. But more on that another time. So going from Southside, firstborn, single mom, all of that, to and a good impoverished experience. Being we were nomads, lived in shelters and motels and
This is
all
with
the
your
things.
dad?
No, with my mom.
Oh, with your
So
mom.
being
Okay.
being on
Okay.
that side.
Okay.
And then going when I was 15, went to go live with my dad in a 2-parent home in the suburbs, being an only child, and being a child. I that foundation, those first 18 years and the juxtaposition between those two experiences has basically is what set me up to be a border walker, and to be able to see on multiple sides and having experiences from multiple sides and not just from one angle. And that's kind of been my life up to this. And it's kind of what has drawn me into the work that I do now in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging. So that's the short story.
Okay. Okay. And so growing up in Chicago, you're moved from one parent's house to another. When you start to think about life in Chicago, what are some memories that come to mind? Like what are some like mainstays, some like nostalgic moments that kind of come to mind?
Food.
Yes, yes, yes,
Chicago rib tips.
yes.
Rib tips, pizza, Chinese food,
Okay.
the food experience. That seriously, as well as the culture, or at least being around or being in a community that feels free and
Hmm.
it's just we just doing our thing, type deal. So that's Chicago, and being able to drive a few miles in any direction and come into just about any culture that
Mm.
you can think of.
Hmm.
That's Chicago. Downtown, amazing. The Taste of Chicago, the free concerts in July. Going
Hmm.
out and to the dinner cruises, Spirit
Okay.
of Chicago, and all of that Great America, which is the Chicagoland Six Flags, and all the different, yeah, those are the nostalgic things that I think about when I think about Chicago.
Okay. All right. And so you progress on. When did you end up going to school? Were you an adult learner, or was it right after?
Straight out of high school, I could not wait to get
Okay.
out. So the church that I went to at the time, grew up in the church. The church that I went to at the time, Wheaton Christian Center, Carlton Arthurs was the pastor. He passed
Hmm.
away a couple years ago.
Mm.
Um, our youth group used to come to college weekend at ORU every
Mm.
fall.
Hmm.
And so because my youth group came and all my friends were going and all,
Hmm.
it's the only school that I even applied to. I could
Mm.
really kick my parents for letting that happen, but it's the only school I applied to because I was like, oh, my friends are going to ORU, so I'm going to ORU.
Yeah.
So did that, and that's what drew me to Tulsa. Because as soon as I graduated, I was like, I already know where I'm going. So I literally was 17 when I got here, and yeah.
What did you study at ORU?
Which year?
You changed that many times? You changed majors that
Oh
many
yeah,
times?
oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah.
Okay.
So I started out pre-med biomedical chemistry because
Okay.
I wanted to be an OB-GYN or a pediatrician.
Got it.
But then organic chemistry kicked my butt. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that's how y'all do? Okay, I'm going to go to biology. So I
mm-hmm,
switched to biology. And then I was like, okay, I like biology and I'm still in the same vein. And then ecology came up. I don't play with
mm,
bugs. That's not what I
mm,
do. So then I switched to nursing. And I had a very, for lack of a better word, I wouldn't go as well, it probably was traumatic. Um, but I had an interesting encounter with the dean of the nursing department.
mm,
And she told me in no uncertain terms that I was not fit for the nursing department. And she would never approve of me being a nursing student. And now, granted, to give the little bit of credit, my grades sucked.
mm.
However, the thing that everybody knows now, because now trauma is a buzzword,
Right.
but coming from the background that I came from, because what I did not include in my introduction is the abuse
Mm,
and situations. I've gone through sexual abuse and
mm,
things like that. And I had siblings at home. And so I was concerned about my siblings. My mind was not in my books. And
mm,
there were no supports at the school that I went to support me, to
mm,
be able to help redirect me, to kind of help absorb some of that burden, to give me resources or direct me to other ways, or that there was none of that.
mm,
And so my grades suffered horribly. And when I went to the dean of the nursing department, she didn't ask me anything. I poured out everything because when she told me that, I was like, I know it looks bad on paper. My grades are bad, but I'm a good student and I know that I can do this and all that. And she said, I don't care. She literally said, I don't care. And I was like, but yeah. And so she, at that time I was a business minor because I
mm,
figured, that I would need to know something about business. But I knew all my time up to that point was I want to be an OB/GYN or a pediatrician. So
mm,
I didn't need business classes. So I thought, and so it was my minor. But when I did that, so I went to visit her twice. And in those two visits, different semesters, because the first time I left her office bawling, crying,
mm, mm,
because she basically said, "You suck. You're horrible. You're a horrible student. You'll never be a great student." And the other thing that she told me was, "You either need to change majors or go to another school because I will never approve of you being a nursing student." And yeah, yeah.
wow.
And I was like, "But I'm at," and this was a school that was, for lack of a better word, they talked about the whole person and taking care of the whole person and making
Mm-hmm.
sure that, and I'm like, but you
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 don't
looked at
practice
this
that.
paper and you're
Yeah.
not, yeah. So I took it to the president. I caught him at the time, the president at that time. I caught him on the way to, I saw him walking across campus and I ran out and I told him about my encounter. And he was completely unfazed. And he said, "Well, if that's what my staff member says, then that's what I stand by. I'm supporting them." And there was no. I explained everything. So at that point, I changed my minor to my major,
Mm.
um, because I had spoken to my advisor and I said, "What do I have to do to get out of here?" And they told me, because I had changed major and had so many classes, they were like, "Well, you got all these credits. If you just pick something, you can get out of here."
Right.
So at that time, I changed my minor to my major, and that was it. And then I was like, "Okay, I'm done."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something. So you talked about having to deal with like traumatic experiences, and of course that's
Mhm.
one of the traumatic experience, like going through college and not having the support of the people who are supposed to be able to help cultivate you.
Right.
And so like how, when you were going through these various situations, and you can either speak about the abusive situation you're talking about, or you know, uh, or the college experience, how, you know, just talk a little bit about what that did to you as a person, like your
Mhm.
psyche, or like how you processed that as an individual, so we can get a better understanding of like
Yeah.
of who you really are
Sure.
or were.
At that time, well, I came here straight out of high school. So I was
Hmm.
17. I
Yeah.
was still wet behind the ears.
Hmm.
And, as they say, and so I'm still developing as a person. I don't even know the fullness of who I am.
Yep.
I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of who I am. And because of everything that I had gone through, there were already so many weights internally
Mm.
that I had to fight to be able to get out to a
Hmm.
point of believing that it was possible for me to be successful, believing that it was possible for me to even like, because talk about imposter syndrome, after
Hmm.
having that kind of a visit with a dean of a school, not just a professor, but a dean, then it really became like, who do I think I am? Like, but I knew. So there's a thing I always talk about, the difference between what you know and what you believe.
Hmm.
So it's like I know that she told me these things, and I know that on paper this looks really bad. It
Hmm.
looks like I'm not equipped to be in these classes. It looks like I know these things. But I also know that I'm better than this. And I
Right.
also know the circumstances that I'm coming from. And I believe I can do this. I
Mm.
believe I can create a different narrative for
Yeah.
myself and for my siblings. I believe that something more is possible.
Now,
So,
wait. Let's stay right there. Where did that belief come from? Like, what was the impetus? Like, that's exactly where I wanted to get to. Like, what was that belief about yourself, or like,
mm,
what was driving that? What was the source of that?
I was always a good student. I was
Okay.
always a good student. I
Okay.
loved school. I was nerdy in
Okay.
school. So even though, and then now of course, well, I was a first gen student, a first
Hmm.
gen, college student, and so there's all that to deal with.
Right.
So not having an example, not knowing, how to navigate the higher educational environment, and what to do and how to prepare and how to,
Yep.
I literally my my dad and my stepmom, bless them, God bless them. If you're watching, God bless you.
Hmm.
Um, my dad and my stepmom, I think by that point because it was still new for them. They had gone from having no children in the home to a 15-year-old who
Hmm.
had an
Right.
attitude, and because she was grown, she was
Hmm.
raising kids and doing, you know what I'm saying. So having that, and so by the time it was time for me to go to college, they drove me down and dropped me off and literally left the next morning.
Mm.
Like before registration started, it was like, you're here, bye. And
Wow.
so all of the things that parents do when they're setting their children up, and college visits,
Hmm.
and making sure they're good with registration, their classes are good,
Hmm.
financial aid's taken care of, all of that stuff. I didn't have that.
Okay.
And I was first gen, so I had no idea
Right.
of how to navigate that environment.
And this is probably
And
before Trio, or around the time Trio was still. Are you familiar with Trio
oh yeah,
programs?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. So there you go. Right. Okay. So Trio's
Yeah.
Trio's a federal program for first gen students that is throughout
Mhm.
the collegiate system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was definitely after
Wow.
me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so none of those supports or anything. And so I get there. And so that belief, the belief that I had in myself. So even though I mean, you talk about not just rocked to my core, stripped to the studs, stripped to like, okay, like the truth of like that kind of encounter in that environment, in a place where like I'm the only one here. My family is not here.
Yeah.
My family's in Chicago. I'm the only one here. I'm first gen. I don't know anybody. I'm having a whole new experience. So it was literally like sink or swim, like for real, real. And so my belief, the only life raft that I could hold on to was the knowledge and the experience of like, I know I'm a good student. I know I can learn. I know I can get these concepts. And I know that I could be an amazing nurse, or a medical professional. I know this because that's where my heart is. It's what I wanted to do. And so she told me those things and I'm like, is this accurate? Am I real? No, I'm like, no, it's not. She doesn't know me. She's not even trying to know me. And so I had to cling to what I knew about myself.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think that there are so many times in our experiences where you have to go back to what you know, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not about what you don't know. Like you don't know the collegiate system, you don't know about FAFSA, you don't know about financial aid, you don't know about I don't know the words and the vernacular of academia, but what I do know is me, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes you got to go back within and understand like that none of this makes me invalid or inaccurate, right? Go back to what you know. What do you know? Me. Okay, good. Now that you know what you know, what do you do with what you know? Right? And employing what you know into a new experience then now creates another reality for what you already knew to begin with. So I guess what I'm saying is like, what worked in middle school, then worked in high school, then worked in college. It's not the same method. It's the same person though. Like if I can get it on this level, I can get it on this level. And guess what? If you feel me in the White House, I can get it on that level. Like because I'm true to who I am and what I know about me. And so that's a great point that you bring up, and that's why I was kind of trying to drive that point home. I've had many times in my career and in my life where I felt imposter syndrome creeping up because it's like, well, all these other people seem to be more valid than I am.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute. No, actually, they're not. They're actually guessing the way you're guessing. Like, and so even as you step into this new role now, like, you're talking about things that maybe you're not, like nobody knows everything. But what I do know is me. I know my lived experiences. I know the experience of people I love. And I can put all of that to educate myself into the work that I'm leading now. And so I think that's perfectly stated by you.
Yeah. One thing that you just referred to is like, a couple of things. Oh, and I kind of want to, I want to name that situation with me writing stuff down. So one, and I mentioned this to you before we started, but I want to let our audience know. So sometimes I get distracted, and I don't know if that's ADHD or what, but I'm noticing that my brain is operating differently these days. And so I tend to need to jot things down to remind me to stay on course, or if something that you're saying, especially in this dialogue and in the goal of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, I want to make sure that I hit those things. And so if you see me, kind of looking away, I'm not on my phone, I'm not playing solitaire, I'm, giving myself a couple of notes. But you said go within and attach to that thing. And I heard someone say, go within or do without. And it's so real. It's like, because it's so tempting especially these days. So many people, to blame everywhere else and to go everywhere else and to look everywhere else for solutions. But the truth of the matter is, we actually come here with everything we need to succeed within us. We come here equipped and designed to accomplish our unique purpose. So whatever it is that we're supposed to do and that we're supposed to affect in the earth, during our time here, we come here with that. And so it's experiences, it's encounters, it's relationships, it's connections, it's education, it's all of the things that we acquire along the way that help us to draw out those things and to add those things into the environments that we're called into, or that the tables that we get to sit at. And so going within it's not a selfish thing. It's not a self-centered thing. No. It's like the divine design, if you will. And it's like that acorn, where we're talking about the oak. It's like, that's right. It's already here. It's already the seed. It's already here. That oak tree is in this acorn. Yes, and so it's the same thing for us. It's like we come here and we're vulnerable and we're lost and we don't know how to navigate our systems and we don't know all of these things, but we find and we're introduced to connectors along the way. Like for me, New You was a part of that. You were a part of that. The things that you were sharing, the cohort members, because we had an opportunity to sharpen each other and to add to each other in that experience. So going within or doing without is a real thing. The other thing is that, no, I may not have been, I'm not the same person at every iteration. Right. The core is the same. Right. My core, those essential elements, that again, that design, going back to that original design is the same. But how it expresses, how certain things come off, how I get to share, how I get to interact, that's going to change with information, with interaction. Because if I learn that this particular thing doesn't really serve me and it's toxic or is harmful to other people, I'm gonna shift that. Because again, we're learning along the way and no one has all of the information, but we're all gathering it as we go along.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just want to double back on that where you we're speaking about we've come with everything we need to fulfill our purpose, right? And I think what's so powerful about that, what I was hearing when you were saying that was like, don't lose a winning hand. Like, you come to earth, you've come here with a winning hand. Don't lose a winning hand. If everything you need to win, to thrive, to we're not even going to say survive. We're going to say to thrive, right? Exactly. Everything you need to be full-fledged, who you've been called to be, who you desire to be, you've already have all of the ingredients of that in you. And it's a matter of going deeper within than looking around and trying to be this person on Instagram and this person on TikTok and this person. It's like, no. Go within you. And if you unlock all the treasure boxes in you, what you're going to realize is you at your highest self is you at a resolved self. When you resolve yourself to who you are and you're full-fledged committed to that, that's going to propel you to places you've never been before. So I love the way that you package that.
When something that you said reminded me, like when you're talking about looking at what it is that we have and not outside. Don't lose that winning hand. Like, don't gaslight yourself. Like, that's something that I have done. Imposter syndrome will make you do that, and it's like it make you second guess. Like, well, maybe I don't belong here, or maybe that. No. Again, don't forfeit your hand. Right. Don't gaslight yourself and don't listen to the voice. Here's something. Be able to distinguish between your own voice, that divine voice, and external sabotaging voices that don't understand your purpose, that don't understand you. That's something that I've had to really grapple with, because for the first part of my life, I was a people pleaser. Like, I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted everyone to accept me. I wanted to make sure that, I didn't upset people and all. Again, growing up on the south side of Chicago, in the skin that I'm in, so, I grew up in the 80s. So late 70s, 80s, and so back then, I mean, it still exists. Colorism still exists now, but dark skinned
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I'm already like doubting myself and
Right.
trying to find ways to validate my existence. And I did that through doing. I did that through trying to please other people. So there was no acknowledgement. There was no, I didn't have the model to remind me that, because the people that I was around were literally, we were surviving.
Yeah.
We weren't thriving. We were
Right.
surviving. And so there wasn't someone to speak into my life and to remind me of my inherent worth, to remind me that, I take that back. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, I loved her hugs. It's the reason I hug the way that I do today, because I could just fall into her arms and I knew that everything was going to be okay, just in her embrace. And she would always just, I'm like, I close my eyes and I can feel her warmth and I can see her smile. And every time I look in the mirror these days, I see her, because I'm approaching that age where she transitioned. And so when I look, I'm just like, hey, grandma. But, so having that, I just have to learn how to not gaslight myself.
Yeah.
And then also meditation. Meditation for me, what I learned. So let's talk about mental health for a quick minute.
Yep.
Because with everything that I've experienced, I have been working on fixing all that crap and coming to grips and coming to terms with all of that for the last 30 some years. But being in therapy and having an opportunity to bounce my ideas and my thoughts and my experiences and my feelings off of someone who does not have a dog in the fight and who can give me that objective, feedback and share additional resources and share additional perspectives and things that I may not have considered, that has been amazing for me. And so one of the things that my therapist recently told me or gave me, it was one of those aha moments, was about meditation and how meditation is not an emptying of the mind. Meditation is the filling of the mind with one thing. One thing.
That's good.
It's focus.
Yeah.
It's focusing on one thing. So when we talk about, I'm meditating, it's like, what are you meditating on? What are you focusing on? What are you aiming your laser at? And it's like, what am I filling my brain with? What am I filling my psyche with? What am I filling my cells and who I am, my interpretation and my perception of who I am with? How am I looking at myself? And so being intentional about the vision that I give myself for myself has been a really an intentional practice that I've had to adopt.
Wow. That's powerful. I got two final questions. All right. One question is around we always, I always say that new voices serves as a megaphone for individuals who've endured transformational situations. And what I would like to know from you is, can you take us through a time where you went through a dark period or a dark situation and you had to hold on to hope to make it through? How did you do that, or how did you hold on to hope, or how do you hold on to hope? Can you walk us through something?
Sure. Thank you for that question. It's a really, I think about that all the time. I having the experience that I have had and that I've gone through, especially in those formative years. I go back to that. I reference it in gratitude now, because for a long time I referenced it in uh, judgment, condemnation. I wish that had never happened, and who would I be if that was not, my story, and if I didn't have to go through that, and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that all of that has made me who I am,
right,
and has allowed me to stand in the places that I am now and to be who I am now. The flip side of that, though, is that going through all of that, there are so many shadows. There are so many dark places.
Yeah.
There are so many valleys.
Yeah.
There are so many corners. There are so many beds to have to hide under. There's so many different things in order to, there's so much self-medicating. There's so much, there's a lot, there's so much like people pleasing and toxic relationships and things like that, because I didn't know who I was. And one of the things that I one of the things that I refer back to is, or that I say, I'm still trying to figure out whether or not it is absolutely true or situationally true. There are very few absolute truths.
Right.
But one thing is, a perception for me is that it's dangerous for other people to see you before you do.
Ooh,
because
that's good.
They can, yeah. And because then they start directing you and start feeding you stuff to try to steer you. And again, that goes back to not gaslighting yourself and not listening to those voices that don't really belong in your head, don't really belong on the inside. And so a thing for me to get through those dark periods, but let me, because I don't want to gloss over those dark periods. Those dark periods were dark.
Yeah.
As a child, I attempted suicide twice. Before going to live with my dad, I had attempted suicide twice, which was the reason why my mom sent me to go live with my dad.
Wow.
And had suffered with depression and just not knowing how to deal, how to cope, what to do, because I was also very different than my family. Like, I'm the touchy-feely, like I want to be, I'm just excited, I'm really, whatever. And they're like, whatever, get off me, but I'm just like, what I love you. And also being open and being curious and wanting to know more and and they're like, whatever, go make that sandwich or go do, so it's like, stay focused. And so I've been an outlier of my family. And it was weird, and I didn't know how to process that. It wasn't like I didn't feel special. I just felt like I didn't fit. I just felt like, why can't I get it? Why is it so hard for me? Why can't I just do what everybody else is doing? And that's just not been my thing. And so that but that continued. Those dark periods, it's not like they went away. It's not like they, it was, if I'm going to be 100, I had dark periods like last year, and that there's something about the seasonal transitions like this time of year, that a lot of people deal with. And I've noticed that that's something that I've struggled with. And so depression is a thing. And then, talking about going through not only the personal challenges, but the career challenges. I'm in this role now, but I was virtually unemployed for like 2 or 3 years. So when you're in a space, you're not able to provide for yourself, as a contractor or as a consultant, which I was, and it was nice to be able to get those checks every now and then, but that wasn't consistent. And my bills come every month.
They're consistent. Yes.
They don't care whether or not I have a contract.
That's it.
And so people always say, I want to work for myself. Do you really though?
Right.
Really, are you ready?
Right.
Are you really ready?
Mm-hmm.
And having that structure in place was important, and I didn't have that. And so learning how to navigate that, and then on the road to get here. So I'm grateful that I finally got to a place. I'm like, I want to be somewhere where I can utilize and enhance my strengths. I don't want to come from having to beef up my deficits.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not what it doesn't make sense for me to forfeit or forego these areas where I naturally, strive or, thrive in order to focus on fixing these deficits. Like, where can I be where my strength can enhance an organization, can add to people, can support people, can lift people up, can do those things that I love doing. And when I got here, it was everything. But before that, I didn't. There's been a long time since I've actually done anything to carry out suicidal ideation, but that ideation was there, and I was like, okay, if this is what it is, I'm done because I've exhausted everything. I've gone to workshops, I've gone to seminars, I've attended this class. I feel like more is possible. I see people winning around me, so I know that it's possible, but it's not happening, and I keep finding myself back in this place. I don't want to keep circling around this same drama.
Wow.
I'm done. And so you talk about holding on to hope.
Yeah.
I feel like I wasn't holding on to hope. I didn't hold on to hope.
Yeah.
Hope held on to me when I was done with it.
Wow. Okay.
And hope is I feel like the universe was like, no, you good. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I know you're tired, but just hold on. And so something that I learned from my childhood, from those times, is that if you wait, it will pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you hold off, if you can't do nothing, there's a reason why. There's a song that says that, or there's a scripture that says, or one of the scripture, the song, all the things. Having done all, stand.
Yeah, scripture. Yeah.
There's nothing else. There's songs, there's scriptures, there's quotes, there's paintings, there's all the things.
Right.
Just if you can't do anything else, just stand. And I would say, if you have done everything, you've exhausted yourself, you've shouted at the wall, you've swung, you've done everything that you could possibly do. You've cried, you've prayed, you've fasted, you've done all the things. Wait. Just wait. If you can't do nothing else, you can't do nothing else.
You can't do
you
nothing
already
else.
Feel like you can't do nothing else.
You've exhausted
You already
everything.
feel like it.
Yeah.
So sit in that. And then it goes back to that meditation. What are you filling your mind with? Just pick one thing. Pick one thing to fill your mind with.
Wow. That's good, girl. That is good. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so what is a call to action for our listeners? What's something you would want to leave with them? And then the last thing is, how can they best follow you, or if you want Instagram, or how can they keep up with you?
So I didn't write that down. What was the first part of that question?
The first question was around a call to action. What was a
call to action? Call to action. Yes. Give yourself the benefit of doubt.
Okay.
Allow yourself to lean into your doubts, and don't condemn yourself for having them. And move forward. There's songs that talk about, well, if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't, all these things. But seriously, taking one step and standing in that one place that you stood in, that's better than where you were before you took that step.
Exactly.
Moving forward just a little bit. Count every win. The action steps. Take inventory of what you're surrounding yourself with. Because something else that I learned about is I'm an empath. So sometimes, a part of the depression that I've dealt with has been not being able to distinguish between what's mine and what's other people's. You know, and so take inventory, get to know your own voice, get to know that still small voice, and know the difference between those outside voices and that voice that brings peace, that voice that will allow you and that gives you grace. So the action step is to get to know your own voice and do what you can to take a step.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be people like, okay, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to call out, and you got to do all. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming, especially when you've been in dark places or you feel like you've already done everything, because now you feel like you're setting yourself up to do more running, like the hamster on the wheel, and then to still be in the same place, or to be back, or for it to not work, or for people not to see you, or whatever. But get to know your own voice.
Yeah.
And learn how to move forward, to measure yourself, and to move forward and celebrate your wins, no matter how small.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is not necessarily going to celebrate them.
Yeah.
But you can. One thing that I say to myself all the time is the background story of it. I was having a moment and I was just like, I need this, I wish this, blah, 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 blah. And I had a moment where it's like, okay, if I had a genie, what would I wish for? You know, what are my 3 wishes? And it was like, okay, I would wish for love that honors me, because I was in a relationship that I didn't feel like was that. A love that honors me, immaculate health, because I'd had some health challenges, and wealth above and beyond my wildest dreams, because I don't want to have to think about it. And it was like, if I had those 3,
I'm good.
I could figure out everything else.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right. And then I was driving one day, and so I developed this pattern of, if I have this weird thing with numbers. So 111, 222, 333, 444, 5, that kind of deal. And when I see it, I'm like, ooh, it's kind of like wishing on a star. And so I would always say my 3 things whenever I just had. Now I wouldn't set an alarm for it, but if I just happened to observe it, I was like, ooh, love that honors me, immaculate health, wealth above money, and then I don't believe in accidents. I was driving one day and I said, I am, and I don't remember, I just stopped it at I am. And I was like, and I felt something shift in my body when I said I am. And it went from that, again, seeking outside of myself to I am these things. So going from I wish I had to I am the love that honors me.
Yeah.
I am immaculate health.
Yeah.
I am wealth above and beyond my wildest dreams. And so when I did that, it was like, oh wow, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
This feels good. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for your time. This has been a wonderful dialogue. That time goes so quick, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
But this has been.
I hope y'all got something you can use.
Yeah, for sure. This was very good. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll get together soon, get some lunch or whatever.
Okay.
But we want to say thank you to our listeners for taking the time to tune in here. It's another edition.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your outro, but I just remembered that I was supposed to correct you on the position stuff. So so I was not promoted because I was not working here.
Okay.
But I was hired as the director of DEI education and training in the office for DEI at University of Tulsa.
All right. Say it one more time. Full scale.
Yes. So I am the director of DEI education and training, in the Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at University of Tulsa.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for circling back on
It's
that.
a whole lot of words.
It is a lot of words. I was like, listen, I got halfway through. I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. But congratulations to you once again.
Thank you.
So make sure you follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And we'll have another episode coming up just soon. All right. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newutulsa.com. That is NEWU Tulsa.com. Follow us on social media at New U Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our free cohorts for personal and professional development opportunities. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.